What is going on, guys? It's your boy Dom Kemp, and tonight we are speaking on some top soccer headlines, some top soccer news in general, and I'm ready to bring it to you. Those of you who have been supporting the podcast for a while, it is much appreciated. We are currently at 36 subscribers. My goal by the end of this month is to have 50, so if we can start off the New Year strong, that would be awesome. But if we can't, it's okay too. It's my opinion on certain topics, certain headlines, things of that sort. So, of course, some people might not like it. So those of you who don't like my opinion, I apologize, but that's just who I am. Other than that, we're going to be speaking about some top headlines in soccer, guys. So let's jump into the first one. Savarez set to manage Timbers, say ESPN sources. So this is interesting right here, guys, which is the Portland Timbers in the MLS soccer team. NY Cosmos boss Savarez to manage Portland Timbers, the MLS soccer club. The Portland Timbers have tabbed Giovanni Savarez to be their next manager, sources have told ESPN's Taylor Twellman. Savarez will join the Timberwolves from NASL side the New York Cosmos and will succeed Caleb Porter, who resigned last month. During his time with the Cosmos, Savarez compiled a regular season record of 65, 26, and 51. In that time, the Cosmos were crowned league champions on 3 occasions and were beaten finalists in 2017. On a conference call with reporters last month, Timbers owner Mehdi Paulson said that he preferred a manager who was familiar with MLS and that speaking Spanish was a plus. Savarez, a forward in his playing days, spent 5 seasons of his 18-year professional career playing in MLS with the likes of the NY Ninja Metro Stars, now the New York Red Bulls, and the New England Revolution and the San Jose Earthquakes. While in the MLS, Savarez scored 52 goals in 121 league and playoff appearances. Among the other clubs Savarez played for are Swansea City and Millwall. Savarez joins a team in a state of flux with the club is on the verge of dealing midfielder Darlington Nagbe to Atlanta United for $1.05 million in allocation money. The rights to defender Gabinga Nadokoyo and an additional $500,000 to $600,000 in incentive-based compensation. Those incentives will take some doing on the part of Nagbe to be reached. Sources told ESPN FC that they include $150,000 if Nagbe wins the league's MVP award, $125,000 if he records at least 12 assists, $125,000 if he scores at least 12 goals, and $250,000 if he ranks in the top 3 in the league in terms of goals plus assists, while also winning the MLS Cup. Wow. That is amazing right there, guys. A brand new manager for the Portland Timberwolves right there. Moving on, Arena rejects claims U.S. favored MLS players. So this is interesting right here. Let's jump to, Bruce Arena rejects concern that U.S. soccer favored MLS players. Oh, so what it's saying is that they don't want to go overseas. Us, and as an American national team, we don't want the Americans already overseas and improving upon each other and getting better each time they play out there. But they favor MLS players that aren't going to get them far. Interesting. Former United States coach Bruce Arena says it is completely false that U.S. soccer tried to market MLS with its player selection during World Cup qualifying, following suggestions from midfielder Danny Williams. Williams said in an interview with NBC Sports last week that a topic of conversation in the most recent national team camp was the belief that political things going on behind the scenes influenced call-ups in favor of MLS players during the campaign that saw the U.S. miss the World Cup. Williams, who joined Huddersfield Town this summer after the English club was promoted to the Premier League, also questioned why he was never caught up Arena in 2017. But Arenas rejected the claims, telling ESPN FC's Jeff Carlisle in a text message on Tuesday, and I quote, "We took who we felt were the best players, regardless of where they played. The statements are completely false." Arena resigned in October, and Williams then returned to captain the U.S. squad that drew 1-1 with Portugal in a friendly last month. 2/3 of the players in that team were not in the squad that lost to Trinidad and Tobago in the final World Cup qualifier in October. And I quote, "I think there are too many political things going on behind the scenes," Williams told NBC, though he also cautioned, and I quote, "I wasn't really close enough with the team for that amount of time, so I can't really talk or give too much information because I don't really know about what happened." He added, my apologies, guys, my apologies. He added, and I quote, "Obviously, I spoke to the boys when I was in Portugal. Everybody has a different view. I heard from a few people that they tried to market the MLS a bit more in the qualifying games and get a name for the MLS. And I quote, at the end of the day, it shouldn't be about that. It should be about quality and bringing the best players and having a plan. That is it. MLS and U.S. Soccer declined to comment to ESPN FC about Williams' remarks. The numbers behind the teams for the U.S.'s World Cup qualifiers do not support Williams, suggesting that MLS players were favored over foreign-based players. The U.S. began the final CONCACAF hexagonal qualifying round under German coach Jürgen Klinsmann in opening defeats to Mexico and Costa Rica. Klinsmann started 4 MLS-based outfield players, Matt Bessler, Michael Bradley, Jermaine Jones, and Josie Altidore, and 6 players who belong to foreign clubs. Colorado Rapids goalkeeper Tim Howard faced Mexico, while Middlesbrough's Brad Guzan played against Costa Rica. And Guzan then signed with MLS club Atlanta United 2 months later before his next U.S. appearance. After those results, U.S. Soccer fired Klinsmann and rehired Bruce Arena, who had coached in the MLS since his last stint as U.S. manager ended in 2006, and said in 2013 he wanted more American-born players in the U.S. squad. But despite Arena's close ties to the domestic league, only 52% of starters in his 8 World Cups qualifiers in charge came from MLS, considering only outfield players. The percentage of MLS-based starters drops to 47.5%. The numbers varied by game. 4 MLS-based players started in the squad that drew in Mexico City in June, but 9 MLS players started the draw in Honduras in September. Nevertheless, Williams, who was born and raised in Germany and has never played in the MLS, couldn't help but wonder why he was left out completely by Arena. He earned 5 caps in 2015 and 3 in 2016 under Klinsmann, but also said he never felt the trust under either coach. It was frustrating, but nobody really ever talked to me or gave me a reason for not recalling me, said Williams, who was unavailable for the October qualifiers with a foot injury. I didn't even know what the reason was, you know? Some people might have said you only play in the English Championship or whatever, but I think the Championship is still a strong league, and I think you could see last year with Newcastle and even the teams down there, now they are big teams, big clubs, and good football players. I could never understand why I was not invited, because I think in the 4 years at Reading, I did basically everything in my power to show the world that I am still on a good level and I can perform. Obviously, I was a bit unlucky with injuries, but in my opinion, nobody really spoke to me. Some people wanted to play the MLS guys a little bit more, but whatever. But Bruce Arena emailed me and said, "You are in the picture, but I haven't really seen you." And I thought that was a bit strange because you must know your players, don't you? Especially because I am not 18. I was around the camp, but I read something where he said the players Klinsmann invited were German Americans. I don't know what it was, but I felt a bit weird about it because I played on a high level for basically now 8 or 9 years. And I quote, "But again, I didn't really want to say anything because what could I do? I can't influence if a manager likes me or not, but I think we could all get a fair chance. It was a bit weird, but hopefully now that I'm in the Premier League, that will change." So interesting remarks there by one of the German American players. Interesting remarks there, guys. Moving on, Guardiola. I'm sorry if United is you. Wow. Okay. So Pep Guardiola, if you guys don't know who he is, he's the Manchester City manager. He said, if Man United were offended by celebrations, I apologize. Man, and I'm a Manchester United fan. I wasn't able to see the Derby Day happening, but guys, oh man. Oh, he has to say something about this. Manchester. Pep Guardiola had apologized to Manchester United if the clubs were offended by his team celebration following Man City's 2-1 Derby win on Sunday, but insisted his side did nothing out of the ordinary. Sources told ESPN FC that the celebrations following the victory at Old Trafford were very vocal and accompanied by loud music, prompting a confrontation between players and staff from both clubs. The Football Association has since written to both clubs to seek their observations over a reported tunnel bust-up, but Guardiola said the celebrations were not over the top. And I quote, "If we were not correct, then I apologize to all of Manchester United. Our intentions was not that," Guardiola told a news conference. And I quote, "It was to celebrate inside the locker room. If the people cannot understand that, then I'm sorry." And I quote, "We won a derby. If we offended United, not just one player, not Jose Mourinho, Manchester United, then I apologize." Sometimes United made a lot of celebrations in the past over City. All the managers celebrate sometimes and exceed, but it didn't happen. We have to enjoy those moments. The City squad also applauded their victory on the pitch with the away fans, but Guardiola decided to return to the dressing room, despite his backroom staff encouraging him to celebrate with his players. The Catalan said it is important for his team to acknowledge the supporters as clubs regularly do in Germany, but said he is reticent, I think that is, to go on the pitch now following the controversy over his exchange with Southampton's Nathan Redmond last month. And I quote, "I did the ridiculous thing with Redmond. I don't want to do that, believe me, but sometimes you do," he added. "Sometimes you can control yourself and say, okay, it's not necessary to go there. We haven't won anything, so we went in the locker room. You discuss if it's a penalty or not, football. That's part of football. And after we go to the locker room." And I quote, "To celebrate with your fans is part of it. In Germany, everyone goes over if you win or lose. I said when I arrived at winning or losing, you have to go over when you are away to say thank you. The last action was in the corner, and we celebrate there in a normal way. Nothing exceptional." So interesting remarks there by Pep Guardiola for Manchester City. And then firing back Jose Mourinho in the next headline. Jose Mourinho from Manchester United, manager for them, ends up firing back, I believe. Jose Mourinho, "I know Man United players acted properly and City mealy." Jose Mourinho says he is certain his Manchester United players did nothing wrong during the confrontation with Manchester City players and staff following Sunday's 2-1 derby defeat. Both clubs have been asked to give their version of events to the Football Association, but the Portuguese coach is adamant his players will have no case to answer when the investigation into the incident in the Old Trafford Tunnel concludes. Romelu Lukaku is one of the United players accused of being involved in the bust-up in the corridor connecting the two dressing rooms, with reports the Belgian striker threw a bottle during the melee. But asked at a news conference on Tuesday whether he was confident his players had acted properly, Mourinho replied, "I know. I am not confident. I know." Asked specifically whether he felt the need to defend Lukaku, the 54-year-old said, "No. Oh, excuse? Prove. Show evidence and punish him." Sources told ESPN FC the incident in the tunnel was triggered by what Mourinho deemed to be disrespectful celebration from City's players and staff. Asked whether he thought the problem had risen because City believed it was appropriate to celebrate in that manner, while he did not. Mourinho answered, "Yes, exactly." And the United manager pointed to his team's celebrations after their 3-1 win over Arsenal at the Emirates earlier this month as proof his players know how to be respectful, even after an important victory. And I quote, "What we did in the Arsenal stadium, it was completely diverse," he said. "What we did, what happened after that match, the way we behaved as winners, it is diversity of behavior, of opinion, of education. I have nothing more to say." Mourinho was 16 minutes late for his news conference at Carrington on Tuesday afternoon, during which time Pep Guardiola was holding his own news conference at City's training base. But Mourinho's briefing was cut short after 6.5 minutes before he stopped in the doorway to suggest a line of questioning about the post-derby brawl was disrespectful to Bournemouth, who visit Old Trafford on Wednesday night. And bye-bye. You don't like Bournemouth, hey? Mourinho said as he left. You don't respect them? You don't think they are a team capable of coming to Old Trafford and doing well? No respect for Eddie Howe? No respect for the players? Paul Pogba is not available against Bournemouth while he serves the second game of his suspension, while Marcos Rojo is a doubt after the defender went off at halftime against City with a head injury. Zlatan Ibrahimovic could start for the first time since returning from a knee injury, although Mourinho he is not concerned about Lukaku's form, despite the striker scoring just twice in his last 14 games, and added, "I am very happy with Lukaku." So interesting there, guys. We got two different statements from both Manchester managers. Interesting. Moving on, this is the Chelsea manager right here speaking about a topic, and it's Antonio Conte. I believe that's how you say his name. Won't tell good lie about Chelsea's Premier League title chances. Antonio Conte reiterated that he prefers to tell the truth rather than a good lie about Chelsea's chances of catching Manchester City in the Premier League title race after Tuesday's convincing 3-1 away win over Huddersfield Town. And goals from Bakayoko, Willian, and Pedro Rodriguez put Chelsea out of sight at the John Smith Stadium before Laurent Depoitre's injury time consolation, with the result providing an emphatic reason to Saturday's limp defeat against London rivals West Ham. Conte faced criticism in the wake of the loss for saying it was impossible to consider Chelsea title contenders as long as City maintained their blistering form, and the Italian doubled down on his stance after praising his players' response against Huddersfield. I think when you tell the truth, this is the truth, Conte said in his post-match news conference. Now we have 11 points less than Manchester City, and they have to play tomorrow. They have won 15 and drew 1. In 17 games, we lost 4 games. When you have a competitor like Manchester City that is winning every game, it is very difficult to think you can win the title. And people say talk negative or positive, it's a bullshit. I would rather tell the truth than a good lie. Sometimes I can be too honest. I like to speak to the players and the fans. It doesn't mean that we are not going to try to catch them. This league is very difficult, and to drop points can happen. Conte did, however, have plenty of positive things to say about Chelsea's performance. And I quote, I think we must be very happy for the performance, because from the start of the game, we showed great personality, great desire to win the game against a really good team, he added. And I quote, don't forget Huddersfield won against Manchester United, and Manchester City struggled a lot against them. To win this way is very important because it improves our confidence, especially after a defeat against West Ham. And I quote, in the last 9 games, Chelsea won 7 games, drew only 1 against Liverpool away, and lost against West Ham. I think that we are having a good path in the league, but there is a team in this moment that is difficult to stop. Otherwise, we will stay there with United, with Liverpool, Tottenham, and Arsenal to fight for the title. We have to try to continue in this way because my players enjoy to play this type of football. To have this great combination play between our strikers. I saw a lot of positive things, but one negative was to concede at the end. We must improve in this because it is important to keep clean sheets for the goalkeeper and the team. Conte was also full of praise for Bakayoko, who was hauled off a halftime in the loss in the London Stadium. I think he played a really good game, the Italian said of the 23-year-old. This guy is a young player, a player with great potential, and I think he is starting to understand that. Know what I want. Interesting right there, guys. We got only 2 more headlines left, and we're going to talk about some more MLS news, guys. Nele FC trades for Laurent Simon after expansion draft. Los Angeles FC acquired the Montreal Impact's Laurent Simon in a trade for 2 players of the new MLS club, acquired in the expansion draft hours earlier. Montreal will receive defenders Juka Ratala and Raheem Edwards, whom LAFC selected with its final 2 picks in the draft from Columbus and Toronto, respectively. Simon, 32, was named MLS Defender of the Year in 2015 and helped Belgium qualify for the World Cup this year. Laurent is a top defender who provides leadership and great distribution, and LAFC coach Bob Bradley said in a statement, his experience in the league and with the Belgian national team will be invaluable as we build our club. Ratala, 29, is a Finland international who started 20 games for Columbus last season, as well as the first leg of the Eastern Conference Final against Toronto. Edwards, 22, will leave his native Toronto after providing 1 goal and 6 assists in 21 appearances for the MLS Cup champions last season, commonly as a second-half substitute, but he will be able to stay in Canada after the Simon trade. Earlier, LAFC also selected Seattle Sounders goalkeeper Tyler Miller, Sporting Kansas City's forward Latif Blessing, and San Jose Earthquakes forward Marco Llorina, I think that's how you pronounce it, in the expansion draft. There's 2 parts to what happens today, Bradley told ESPN FC. After the Simon trade, there's the part of picking some players, some with experience, some young talent, that you feel good to work with and put out on the field. And then, when you pick players that you think have value that make for good discussion moving forward, today is a step in the process towards building a team. Bradley suggested Miller, Blessing, and Llorina all have a future with LAFC, as he shapes the roster around the 3 prominent players the team has already acquired. Mexico forward Carlos Vela, Egypt defender Nomar Gabber, and U.S. defender Walker Zimmerman, who joined on Sunday in a trade with FC Dallas. Miller, 24, spent the past 2 years stuck behind Stefan Fry with the Sounders, playing in 1 MLS game each season. But he could now get his chance to start on a regular basis. The Sounders had exercised his 2018 contract option hours before the draft. I think Tyler is a young talent goalkeeper, good size, and so for me, I think it fits that you have got somebody who is very motivated to step in, Bradley said. We are obviously high on what we see. Blessing, 20 years old, scored 3 goals while making 16 starts for Sporting Kansas City in his first season in the MLS after being the top scorer in the Ghana Premier League in 2016. In his first season in the league, Blessing showed that he can do certain things that can make a difference, Bradley said. He can go by people on the dribble. He can play different roles on front. If you look back at the U.S. Open Cup run and final, he's a talented young player. Jorginho gained some notoriety in September when he scored twice as Costa Rica beat the United States in a key World Cup qualifier. The 27-year-old scored 5 goals in 25 appearances for San Jose in his first MLS season, including a dramatic stoppage time winner in the final regular season game that put the Earthquakes in the playoffs. Jorginho is a presence up front, Bradley said. He's fast, he can get behind people, he works hard, and he's very important for Costa Rica. I think that when you get Marco in the right situation, that he can be a consistent goal scorer. At club level so far, people point to the fact that he hasn't been as productive as you want from a number 9, but he gets chances and he scores some very good goals. We look forward to working with him. MLS teams were allowed to protect 11 players from their squad in addition to homegrown and generation Adidas players on their first contracts, and LAFC could only pick one player from a team. Not selected was Seattle Sounders captain Osvaldo Alonso, who on Sunday tweeted his unhappiness at being left unprotected for the draft. I quote, "I hate it when when people use you for what they want," Alonso wrote. "Then they just push you aside like you are nothing, but they keep you close just in case they need you for something." With the conclusion of the draft, the league's free agency period officially opened for players who are at least 28 years old during the 2017 season and have at least 8 years of MLS service. So interesting, a lot of MLS news tonight, guys. A lot of MLS news, but finally, we're going to the Serie A, the Italian league, the Italian giants, Juventus, and Paulo Dybala told to sort out private life to improve Juve form. Interesting. So Paulo Dybala is a striker for Juventus, and I don't know, man, if he's injured right now or he's playing right now. I'm not quite sure, but pretty sure that we're going to find out. Juventus Vice President Pavel Nedved has told Paulo Dybala to sort out his private life and focus on his football after the forward's form dipped. Dybala, 24, was dropped for Juve's 0-0 draw with Inter Milan on Saturday night as coach Massimiliano Allegri reacted to his recent run of just 1 goal in 8 games by recalling Mario Mandzukic and playing him in a 3-man attack alongside Gonzalo Higuain and Juan Cuadrado. Nedved says that Dybala, who scored 10 goals in the first 6 games of the season, is getting way too distracted by off-field matters. And I quote, "He's 24 and it's normal that he has ups and downs, and obviously he's a player who could get to the very top," Nedved told Sky Sport Italia. "I'd advise him to focus on his football and make lots of sacrifices in his private life and train to the maximum." Allegri treats everybody equally, and he's always done that at Juve, so he's not been particularly hard on Paul. He treated Higuain and Mandzukic the same way because he always wants the best from all of his players, and he does right. Nedved will hope that Dybala heeds his advice and gets back to the best in time for February when Juve will face Tottenham for a place in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. And I quote, "We lost to them in a friendly in the summer, but that doesn't count much," Nedved said. Tottenham are very solid, and they have a great coach and great potential in attack. While they have got a forward we know well in Fernando Llorente. We have just got to focus on ourselves, though, and I think we have got a good chance of going through. Juve have reached 2 of the past 3 Champions League finals, and Nedved said he would sign for that. Again, adding that it's not easy to get there and not everybody makes it with such frequency. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, he added. Let's get to the quarters first. We are used to taking things game by game. Otherwise, you create too much confusion. So interesting topics tonight, guys. Those of you who enjoy soccer news, top soccer news around the world, as in today, then much appreciated. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Like and subscribe if you want to listen to more podcasts on soccer, guys. Most soccer news will be every single Tuesday, so stay tuned for that. And tomorrow, we're going to have some NBA news, so stay tuned for that as well. Thank you for listening, and I hope you guys went into enjoying, and God bless all of you. My goal is 50 subscribers by the end of the month. If we can get that, that would be awesome. Thank you so much for our support up to this point. But other than that, thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you guys later.